Hi, everyone. Can I have your attention for just a minute? We're going to start in just a few minutes, but we've gotten word that the link to the live stream isn't working. We are fixing it. However, if you have family members at home who are planning to watch the live stream, if they go straight to YouTube and type Gann Academy into the search bar, if you click on the link for Gann's channel, you can get to the live stream from there. So the live stream is working, just the link for it isn't working. And in the meantime, we are getting it repaired. So thank you so much, and we will start in just a couple moments.
Welcome to Gann Academy's 23rd commencement. Students and guests, please remain standing for the national anthem and Hatikva, performed by the class of 2022 members of the Shenanigans, Daniel Becker, Carolyn Bernstein, Neely Fish-Buehler, Gabriel Friedman-Nadich, Jonathan Constantine, Sydney Raby, and Joni Mayman.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Kolot baleva penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfate mizrach kadima aim letzion Sophia od avda tikvatenu Hatikva bat shnot alpayim liotam chofshi be'arzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim liotam chofshi be'arzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim.
Please be seated. Students, parents, faculty, alumni, friends, guests, Board of Trustees, and finally, my fellow members of the graduating class of 2022. My name is Sydney Raby, and it is my honor to officially welcome you here today to celebrate the 23rd commencement ceremony at Gann Academy. As we sit here today at our high school graduation, a day we have dreamed of since we were young, we can look back on the past 4 years and realize that not a single one of us could have imagined what would have become of our high school experience. We have had some twists and turns, from our first day of high school to Explo Week, where we learned in the middle of nowhere, Maine, to New York City, from online school to OWL hybrid school to in-person classes, Home quarantine, no quarantine, Israel quarantine. We've really done it all. But no matter when, where, or how we were learning, one thing always remained constant. We were always learning how to make the world the best place that it can possibly be. Rabbi Hillel has 3 questions that provide a framing for this better world and how it can be achieved. Im ein ani li mili. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? We need to be our true selves because there is only one you, so embrace it. Ve'im ani le'atzmi, ma'ani. And if I am only for myself, what am I? We need to live our lives not just for ourselves, but we need to share it with our community. Because if we don't, then what's the point? Ve'im lo achshav matai. And if not now, when? We know now more than ever that tomorrow the world can be turned upside down. So if we want to act, then now is the time. The first time that we walked through the Gann arches as the class of 2022, we were 8th graders coming in for step-up day. And before we had our first advisory or ate in the servery for the first time, or before we met our future classmates who would become our best friends, we all went up into the library and we sat right outside, and Mr. Conti, our former class dean, sat us down and asked us the question that would drive our Gann journey. Who will you become? As we leave here today, no longer Gann students, but Gann alumni, we can take with us Hillel's 3 questions and Gann's 4th to make the world the best place it can be. Today, then, is not just a commencement, a day where we can celebrate all of the things that we have done the past 4 years, but also a graduation where we can celebrate the things that are next to come. Thank you, Mazal Tov, and welcome.
Hi. It's now my honor to welcome Gann Academy's Head of School, Dr. Dalia Hockman, to deliver the keynote address to the graduates of the class of 2022. Dr. Hockman?
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. It's wonderful to be here. I usually save my thank yous to the end of the speech, but this year, it feels important to begin with gratitude. Let's acknowledge the team effort that led to the successful completion of our Israel program. Please join me in thanking Simon Luxembourg and the entire My Israel team for all of their hard work and leadership. Graduates, I wish I could devote this graduation speech only to gratitude and to celebration. But we are all adults here, and we need to talk about some hard stuff too. From Uvalde, Texas, to January 6, 2021, our society is in a state of moral uncertainty. How do you, as young adults, step into this world and become people able to navigate complex and thorny decisions? How do you know what to believe, and how do you figure that out? And while there exist many ethical systems, you have been given the gift of a rich, ancient framework in Judaism, and that will help guide you and center you as you confront the questions of the 21st century. Today, I've chosen 2 real-world case studies to examine with all of you. In the summer of 2021, as the US government was preparing for a full withdrawal from Afghanistan, international NGOs and governments began to evacuate their citizens. As time began running out, it became abundantly clear that only a fraction of the Afghanis who would face potential hardship were going to be evacuated. Remember those excruciating photos from the Kabul airport? How did people working in governmental and international aid organizations prioritize who would stay and who would go? Should all the Afghani translators who worked alongside the US Armed Forces get the first priority? But what about all of those newly educated professional women who might be relegated to house arrest should the Taliban seize power? And then there were thousands of foreign aid workers who had spent 20 years building hospitals, roads, and schools in Afghanistan. Shouldn't they too get a seat on the plane? Who would stay and who would go? The Talmud in Baba Metzia relates the following analogous situation. Two people were traveling on the road, and one of them has a bottle of water. If both drink, they will both die. If one drinks, he will arrive at the town. Jewish authorities were debating cases of triage thousands of years ago. Not surprisingly, there's a deep rabbinic debate, or machloket, about how to handle such a situation. Rabbi Akiva suggested a more utilitarian approach, which is just to maximize human life by giving the water only to one person. Later, other rabbis added to Akiva's ruling by saying that the water should be given to the individual with the highest likelihood of survival and the chance to live the best quality of life in the future. Graduates, the Torah is not an answer key. It will not give you a yes or no answer. It will not be able to tell you exactly who should be evacuated from the battlefields of Afghanistan. But it does give us moral guidance with its rich stories and beautiful metaphors. And taken together, it guides us when we are confronted with incredibly difficult decisions. Now, on to our second example. Over the last few years, together, as you've been in high school, we have seen artificial intelligence making astonishing and sometimes unsettling advances in how computers interact with humans. New technology allows machines to respond to questions, interpret nuance, and read social cues. Cutting-edge algorithms can combine vision, speech, and language capabilities rather than treat them as separate tasks. Who among us has not had the following experience? You have a fleeting thought, you're browsing you're doing a search on Google. Maybe you want to buy a baseball bat. Maybe you want to buy a pair of shoes. Maybe you're looking at a ticket for a concert. And a few days later, you open your web browser to read the news, only to be bombarded by advertisements urging you to buy that same product, right? We've all had that. What is the limit of replacing human interaction with robotic ones? What are the dangers of allowing robots to acquire capacities of empathy and social interaction? Will machines be decision makers when you are all in your careers? Can we trust them, and do we want to trust them? In Judaism, there's a core idea that humans are God's partner in the creation process. In Breshit, in Genesis, chapter 2, verse 3, it reads, Vayvarech Elohim et Yom HaShva'i, Vaykadesh Oto, Kivo Shabbat Mikom Melachto, Asher Bara Elohim La'asot. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, having ceased on it from all the work of creation which God created to make. Look at that final phrase in the Hebrew. It's a little bit unusual. And the Hebrew grammar is a little bit different than what you might anticipate, right? Asher bara Elohim la'asot. So what's the accurate translation of that last phrase? Which God created to make. That's a very interesting formation. And the rabbis interpreted this unusual phrase to mean God created earth for humans to make and to improve upon. To me, that means that we humans have the latitude to innovate, but we must be careful that our innovations are truly improvements. While the rabbis could not possibly have imagined our modern-day robots, they did give us guidance on how to proceed as we innovate. In many ways, this is also a lesson on humility. Class of 2022, Talmudic lessons aside, I've gotten to know your class over the past 3 years, and especially over this past year. I know each of you has had to make difficult choices, learning how to triage in your own lives, and demonstrating your own sense of right and wrong, and being willing to advocate for what you believe is right. My hope is that as you continue to face these ethical questions, you will reach back to what you have learned here, and that your understanding of Judaism will help guide you. The Jewish legacy, the framework, is truly a gift that your parents and your teachers have given you. Savor that gift and use it wisely. I want to end where I begin, with a tremendous amount of gratitude, and I would ask that we hold the applause. I'd like to thank the many different teams at Gann who came together at the last minute to switch our graduation plans and create this beautiful, beautiful event. To the development and marketing teams, Trina Lustig, Kayla Hoyes, Seth Finkel, and Jenny Gomringer. And to our facilities team, Dave Hubbard, Joe Miller, Eduardo Menizabal, and Bob Godoy. The servery team, Avi, Riva, and their entire kitchen crew. And the academic team, and forgive me if I miss any of you, Cindy Jacobs, Lily Rabinoff-Goldman, Julia Mabucci, Simon Luxembourg, Shirazar Kessler, Rachel Shapiro, and Lauren Avalos. We can now give them a round of applause. And now there are two really important groups of people that we must thank. The first are the Gann faculty and staff. They, in many ways, you would not be here without their efforts. They are so committed and work hard each and every day on behalf of our students. I would ask graduates that you rise and face your teachers. They're over here. And both sides, both sides. If there's one other lesson you've learned at Gann, is to respect your teachers and your parents and your grandparents. So we'll start with teachers. On the count of 3, I would like you to give them a round of applause, but also to say something special to them. It can be a word, it can be a phrase, it can be a special message of gratitude. It can be something in your heart as you think for a second about your gratitude towards your amazing teachers. Okay? We're going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, stay standing, stay standing. Now, turn towards the back and face your loved ones, grandparents, parents, siblings, extended family members, all of whom have come here today to honor you. This group of individuals has supported you from the very beginning, and we would not have been here if it was not for their efforts. We're going to do the same thing on the count of 3. We're going to give them a round of applause, but also I'd like for you to say a word of gratitude. You can say it out loud or say it in your heart as we recognize the tremendous support and commitment of your families and loved ones. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, you may be seated now. Graduates, class of 2022, we are so very proud of you. We congratulate you on your many accomplishments. We honor you and we celebrate you today. right, so now we're going to invite up our student speakers. First, we have Mira Gorak to give reflections in English. Ty Basson and Avia Levy will give their reflections together in Hebrew. And an English translation of the Hebrew speech will be projected on the live stream and on the screen. Mira?
I want to take a page out of student body president Ami Listikin's book and say thank you, Dr. Hockman. That was lovely. Before I begin praising my classmates for how obviously wonderful they are, I want to ask you, the audience, to do something really scary. I want each of you to think back to March of 2020. When we first entered the pandemic, many of us experienced tremendous fear of what our world would look like at the other end of this atrocity. If there's one thing Gann has taught me in the last 4 years, is that it's important to ask questions. I wondered, how will the world change? How will our community change? How will each of us individually change? But in the midst of seemingly endless uncertainty, it's easy to forget the power we have even when we feel powerless. My classmates, though, did not use their free time as an excuse to stop educating themselves and bettering our larger community. 2 students in front of me worked to start a small summer camp in Arlington for children whose plans were canceled in the summer of 2020. Another student took online Spanish lessons to ensure that her skills would remain sharp while we were remote. 2 more students turned their passion into a well-produced podcast about hockey. Students learned to play new instruments, campaigned for social change, took up leadership opportunities in our community, and many students and parents got really good at baking bread. Even though these remarkable accomplishments were achieved in our own separate houses, the impact of these actions echoed out into the entire Gann community. Each of the 84 exceptional students, community members, and humans in front of me will carry with them a unique self-story of their high school experience. Some of us will look back on our time here and think of eagerly waiting in the lobby for basketball practice to start. Others will remember the laughter that bounced off the walls every time Mr. Key introduced the moose of the day. Students will remember dance classes, student council meetings, jazz band rehearsals, robotics, meaningful Jewish Journey Fridays, and so much more. Yes, every student in front of me will remember Gann Academy through an entirely different lens. But together, we are the class of 2022, and together, we know the immeasurable work it took to get here today. We are a historic class in the story of Gann Academy. When we first walked through the iconic Gann arches for the first time, we entered an established and effervescent community. The Gann we knew as 9th graders passed unto us the unsaid responsibility of carrying forth that same spirit to our own graduation. And had our high school journey been a typical one, that task may have taken less effort. But none of us expected to be thrusted into an unforgiving pandemic that would force the foundation of Gann's community to be pieced together and rewritten. Abba Kovner, an Israeli poet and partisan leader, describes the Torah as the story of a people which was scattered all over the world and yet remained one single family. I feel that this narrative applies to our journey as the class of 2022. Whether it was processing the news of our canceled Israel trip in 10th grade, surviving half a year of virtual learning, or weaving our withered community back into a beautiful, tight-knit student body, we rose with positivity and unbreakable strength. We were scattered but remained a single family. And that is the story I know we will share when we look back on what Gann Academy was to us. As many of you know, a mere 5 days ago, we returned from a 6-week trip to Israel, a trip that had been 2 years in the making. There were countless times over that period when I thought we would never get the chance to go. The excitement for our trip to Israel had been festering since March of 2020. This experience was an honor that none of us took for granted, myself included. At 7:53 a.m. on April 27th, the day our class departed for Israel, I came up positive for COVID on a rapid test. Just like that, the experience that represented 2 years of anticipation had slipped through my fingers. After a week of FOMO and friendship bracelet making, I was able to join my class only a week into the trip. Family and friends repeatedly cracked a joke that went like this: well, at least you'll be immune in Israel. Who cares, I'd say. It's not like COVID will matter when I get there. Do you guys know where I'm going with this, or? I don't think there's a single person sitting here today that could have guessed the impact COVID would have had in our grade in these last 6 weeks. I will never forget waking up on the second day of our Yom Liam hike, unzipping my tent, and hearing about the first and second positive COVID students. And I will never forget sitting in a circle with our whole grade the night after visiting the Dead Sea and hearing about the 50th positive student. I'm telling you about this not just as a reminder to wear a mask and take care of your loved ones, but because I think there's a message here. We were scattered, divided, separated, and isolated, but managed to remain one single family, just as Abba Kovner said. Students purchased goodies, meals, and gifts for their COVID-positive peers. Friends conversed through windows, hostile door peepholes, and social media to reassure their quarantined loved ones that they hadn't forgotten about them and were anxiously awaiting their return. I saw acts of kavod, ruach, chutzpah, and ahava on a daily basis as we all worked together to stay together. I'll admit that there were times when I didn't think we would all be here today, but my heart is so full that we are able to experience our final moments together. The love that bleeds from the heart of this grade is a testament to how so many friendships have become family over these past 4 years. On behalf of the class of 2022, Gann Academy is a truly magical place, and it has been an honor to lead this community as seniors. I cannot overstate how much I love Gann and how honored I am to stand here and share the journey we have gone on with you all. This is such a special place, and I know when we look back on our self-stories of Gann, we will remember this moment and cherish the time we have spent here in college and beyond. Thank you. It is now my honor to welcome my fellow graduates, Ty Basin and Avia Levy, to share their reflections in Hebrew.
שלום לכולם. אחת ההחלטות הכי טובות שלנו בשנים האחרונות הייתה לעבור מבית ספר תיכון אחר לגן אקדמי. שלום, אני אביה ועברתי לגן אקדמי בכיתה י'.
שלום, אני איתי ועברתי לגן בכיתה י"א, ואנחנו מתרגשות מאוד לספר לכם את הסיפור שלנו. הייתם מאמינים? אנחנו כל כך גאות לעמוד כאן מולכם היום, באירוע כל כך מיוחד. היינו יכולות להתחיל ולאמר משהו כמו, תראו כמה גדלנו ב4 השנים האחרונות, אבל זה לא יהיה נכון, כי אף אחד מאיתנו לא הייתה כאן 4 שנים.
אחת המטרות העיקריות של בית הספר גן היא ללמד אותנו על התרבות והשפה היהודית המשותפת לכולנו. ובדיוק בגלל זה, הנושא הזה כל כך חשוב לנו כקהילה. העם היהודי מחובר לא רק דרך מסורת וההיסטוריה, אלא גם על ידי שפה משותפת שאנו יכולים לקרוא לה השפה שלנו. היא השפה העברית. כשגדלנו בבית שמדבר עברית, לא עלה בדעתנו כמה היה לנו מזל שיש לנו חיבור ייחודי ומיוחד לעם. הזכות לתקשר עם יהודים בכל העולם.
כשנכנסנו כתלמידים חדשות לשכבה הקיימת, בית הספר עשה כל מה שיכולה כדי שאנחנו נרגיש בבית. חוץ מכמה בדיחות של חברינו לכיתה מדי פעם על זה שאנחנו תלמידות עברה. זה מה שעושה את בית הספר הזה לכל כך מיוחד, הקשרים האישיים שאנחנו יוצרים.
ההתבוננות העצמית והשאלה החשובה שאנו שואלים את עצמנו, מי אנחנו ומה הייעוד שלנו. זה כל כך עוצמתי ומורכב, אך בזכות הערכים היהודיים והכלים שרכשנו בגן אקדמי. אנחנו מרגישות בטוחות שאנחנו יכולות לצאת ולהתמודד עם העולם הגדול, אך גם להרגיש שתמיד יש לנו בית לחזור אליו.
כולנו הגענו לסוף מסע ארוך מאוד, במיוחד עם קוביד וכל האירועים שפספסנו בגלל המגיפה. אך בסופו של דבר זה יהיה משתלם. כי היה לנו את השבתון, למרות שנשארו מעט תלמידים בסופו. סוף סוף טסנו לישראל, שלמען האמת זאת הסיבה היחידה שבגללו עברתי לגן, וקיבלנו קוביד, אבל זה עזר לנו להתגבש כשכבה, לטייל, ללמוד וליהנות.
הכישורים שלמדנו לאורך הדרך יעזרו לנו לאורך כל החיים. דברים כמו להסיח את דעת המורים שלנו ללימודי יהדות ולדבר על כל דבר מלבד יהדות, הצד הרוחני של שיעור מדעים, תודה לילה גודמן, ואיך לשכנע מורה מדוע ביטול השיעור בעצם מועיל יותר מבחינה חינוכית. אבל הכי חשוב, למדנו להיות גאות ביהדות שלנו, להיות מדועות לעצמנו, ליכולות וחזקות שלנו. זה משהו שגן תמיד עבד קשה כדי להנחיל לנו.
מכיוון שזהו נועם בעברית, אנו מרגישות צורך לדבר על זה, על אחד הנושאים שמייחדים את בית הספר הזה מבתי ספר רבים אחרים בארץ. מה שהופך אותנו למיוחדים על השיעורים העברית שלנו. הרגשה שלנו בשיעורי העברית היא כמו המשפחות המדהימות שלנו, ובמיוחד את הסבתות הקולניות שלנו שצועקות על כולם ללא סיבה נראית לעין. ככה זה בשיעורי העברית. שקט אין שם. מה שהופך את השיעורים למיוחדים זה האווירה בכיתה, המשחקים, הקשר בין המורים לעברית אלינו, לדעת מתי להיות רציניים ומתי צריך לחזור ולעבוד.
היום אנחנו נפרדים ויוצאים כל אחד ואחת למסע אישי. אנחנו נזכור על כל הארוחות המשותפות שלנו, הטיולים וזמן בילוי על ספות הבכירים שלנו בבית ספר כתלמידים י"ב הבכירים. למרות שכולנו הולכים לדרכים נפרדות, בשנה הבאה תמיד נהיה בקשר, נתמוך זה בזה מכל חלקי העולם השונים.
לפני שהגענו לגן, לא היה לנו את הביטחון בהחלטה שלנו לעבור לישראל לאחר הסיום הלימודים. שלא לדבר על לנועם בעברית מול כולכם היום, אבל גדלנו והתפתחנו כאנשים בשנים שלנו בגן. בית הספר הזה הכין אותנו ללכת בדרכים שונות לחלוטין וסיפק את כל הכלים והמיומנויות הנדרשות לנו.
אנו מודות לכולכם על שהגעתם לכאן כדי לתמוך בנו ביום המיוחד הזה. תודה רבה.
We want to welcome Jonah Tillman to share with our community the 2022 senior class gift.
Through the amazing generosity of our parents, the class of 2022 is honored to continue the tradition of the senior class gift. The senior class gift is a philanthropic opportunity for future students, philanthropic opportunity for the graduating class to leave a legacy for future students while honoring their experience at Gann Academy. It is a chance to say thank you for 4 wonderful years. The class of 2022 is proud to present our gift this year. The patio between the servery and SAC building was completed earlier this spring and serves as a beautiful alfresco dining, meeting, and social space. We will be supplementing this great new space with furniture so more students and faculty can enjoy the outdoor patio for lunch, club meetings, doing work during Flex Block, and many more activities for years to come. A special thank you goes to our parent co-chairs of this campaign, Shira Lewin and Alana Edry. Your dedication to Gann and to the class of 2022 is remarkable, and we are all deeply appreciative of your efforts. We know that this gift is something we will take pride in seeing and using when we return to visit as alumni. Thank you, class of 2022 families, and thank you, Gann Academy.
Thank you, students. That was amazing. It is now my honor, privilege, and delight to welcome a Gann Academy beloved teacher for over 20 years. Many of us know him for his colorful teaching techniques. So I'd like to invite up Mr. Yoni Cadden to deliver the faculty address to the graduates.
When I was growing up, my parents sent me to a Jewish day school where I was taught by black hat rabbis. The school was strictly religious, and I loved every single minute of it. I worshiped these rebbes. Several times a year, they would have me over to their house for Shabbat, and I would relish every moment of that 25-hour slice of heaven. I would come home and beg my parents to be more like those rebbes. And this is what makes our story even more interesting. Because my parents were, they still are, Ad Mer ve'Esrim ve'Echad, deeply committed Jews. As I grew up, we kept Shabbat on so many traditional levels. We'd have a festive meal on Friday night. We'd walk to an Orthodox shul on Shabbat morning and return home after for another festive meal in the afternoon. So what did I want? Well, my parents might drive somewhere or turn lights on and off during Shabbat, and I begged them to stop. Anything to make our house more like the homes of the rebbes that I worshipped. Almost nightly, or at least that's how I remember it, I'd come home from school, sit down for dinner with my family, and tell my parents about something my rebbes had taught me that day. Rivka was 3 when she married Yitzchak, I pronounced one evening. I think I was in about 4th or 5th grade when this happened. What? My father said. Rivka, or Rebecca, was one of the matriarchs in the Bible. She was the wife of Isaac, or Yitzchak, Abraham's son, that son that Abraham almost sacrificed in that famous story called the Akedah. It's true, I said. And not only that, not only was Rivka 3 when she married Yitzchak, Yitzchak was 37 at the time of the Akedah. It must have seemed preposterous, but my father kept his cool. That's interesting, he said. How do you know that? It's in the Torah, I responded, starting to feel a bit more defensive and maybe not 100% sure of myself. Great, said my father, let's look it up. And off I went to get the book of Breshit, Genesis, all the while quietly praying inside my head that this story be true. Let her be 3, let her be 3. I repeated over and over. This dance, by the way, I hasten to add, was as certain as anything in the Gann family universe. Most people have only 2 certainties that frame their existence, death and taxes. The Ganns have 3, death, taxes, and some kind of deeply serious book will inevitably make its way to the family dinner table at every single meal. So, I cracked open Breshit to the place I thought it might be. Nope. Not in the next set of psukim either. Nowhere. Nowhere did it say how old Rivka was when she married Yitzchak. Wait, I said, I think it's in Rashi. Oh, said my father. Rashi was the 11th century scholar whose Bible commentary is almost synonymous with the Bible itself in many Orthodox circles. Okay, he said, let's look there. And sure enough, there it was. Without getting into the details as to how Rashi did his math, he does in fact say that Yitzchak was 37 at the time of the Akedah, and that 3 years later, when Yitzchak was 40, he married 3-year-old Rivka. Wow, said my father. How does Rashi know that? I had no idea how Rashi knew that. In fact, the only answer I had was the one that my rebbes had given me. Ruach HaKodesh, I told him. Divine knowledge available only to a select few. What's that? Said my father. No matter what I said at that point, I was done for. Checkmate. I bolted from the table, bawling. So, let me slightly amend our family's 3 life certainties to add a 4th. Death, taxes, a weighty tome on every dinner table, and Yoni fleeing said table in tears. And that was my childhood. And it was the best, most beloved childhood I could possibly have asked for. Because through those experiences, what my parents gifted me was the blessing of cognitive dissonance. Or perhaps, more to the point, the blessing of learning how to lean into cognitive dissonance. We will send you to a yeshiva where you will worship your rebbes, they said, and that will be a core part of your identity. But we will also teach you how to embrace the inescapable draw of logic and reason. And that will be a core part of your identity too. And then they set up a home in which I was encouraged to live with both. I've never given up on either one of my identities. I leaned into each of them and found my own path forward from there. It didn't happen overnight, and it took a long struggle, but I am now a proud practicing Orthodox Jew who also believes the Torah was written by human beings. I won't get into the details of how I reconcile those two things now. I'd be happy to further discuss that after, and I'm sure many of you would like to. But for now, I will just say that embracing this fundamental cognitive dissonance has given me enormous peace, constant stimulation, and a profound sense of purpose. Why do I share this story with you, my beloved soon-to-be graduating students? I share it along with a second story in a moment for a few reasons. The first reason is because my parents blessed me with the gift of cognitive dissonance and taught me how to lean into it, and I want to leave you all with that bracha now. You don't have to deny one part of who you are because it seems to contradict with another part of who you are. You can find your authentic path forward by embracing both. Let me pause quickly to define cognitive dissonance. The mental discomfort experience, that is, by holding two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values at the same time. And I've watched you lean into this discomfort all the time in our classes together. You charged headlong into trying to reconcile your deeply held belief in the ideal of American democracy with the lived reality of so many who don't always benefit from democratic outcomes. You struggled with Walter Fernald. Was he a visionary who truly wanted the best for people in his care, or a cold politician who built warehouses to lock away disabled people he thought were dangerous to society? We know there is many truths in both narratives, and in so many ways our class was an attempt to reconcile them. We studied the Holocaust together as an act of unknowable human barbarism, while simultaneously attempting to understand the motivations of the killers in order to prevent genocide from happening again. Could we possibly do both? We struggled with that every single day. And you wrestled with cognitive dissonance in our shared lived experience as well, as we stood at the kotel together, trying to help carve out a new space for women to daven together and read from a Torah. Our fellow Jews made our being there very uncomfortable and sometimes very scary. We felt resentful of the people who were trying to prevent us from praying at Judaism's most sacred space. But then we reminded ourselves that the people shouting and blowing whistles at us were also our brothers and sisters of Am Yisrael. While we believe that Amcha, Jewish peoplehood, means that we are all in this together, as Mira so beautifully spelled out for us, it was really hard to feel that Amcha in that moment. It's pretty hard now, looking back on that. We are still struggling with that dissonance. And that is our mitzvah right now, to continue to struggle with that dissonance. The very next day, we rode our buses to Kever Rachel, the tomb of our matriarch Rachel. We found ourselves surrounded on either side by 20-foot-high security walls. While many of us were excited to be visiting this sacred shrine of our people, we also felt deeply conflicted about the costs of keeping passage to that tomb open, and open mostly to Jews. On the one hand, celebrating and embracing our Judaism and Jewish heritage is so real and so palpable in the land of Israel. Yet many of us simultaneously worry about the price of allowing us to safely experience those feelings of connectedness, joy, and pride. How you, our Jewish leaders of tomorrow, choose to take on these tensions will chart the course of all of our Jewish future. I want to share now a second story from my younger years What happened in this story taught me how to lean into cognitive dissonance. This story also made me stronger, more appreciative, and a more forgiving person. I was just out of college, and one of my younger brothers had just announced his engagement. I was seething with jealousy. I wasn't even close to getting married. My Columbia University award-winning brother was now going to stand under the chuppah before me. About a week after his announcement, our family was gathered together, and my mother noticed that I was isolating myself in my room and not really hanging out with the rest of the family. She asked me what was going on, and after some coaxing, I told her about the enormous jealousy that I'd been feeling. "Have you told your brother?" she asked. I was taken aback by the question. "No," I said. "Why not?" she asked. "I don't want to seem weak," was my reply. My mother then responded with something that I've never forgotten, something that has informed my life from that point forward. Only the weak need to hide. Strong people put themselves out there and say to the world, "This is who I am, take me or leave me." What my mother was telling me was so essentially true as to be undeniable. And now I had to go talk to my brother and be strong. And the only thing that would truly make me strong was my being vulnerable. And I did. I bore my soul. We had a profound, many-hour-long discussion in which I was honest and forthright and always vulnerable. And I listened for those little voices of defensiveness, of hiding. And every time I felt one creeping in, I stepped back and started my story again, this time more honestly and more fully vulnerable. That conversation bonded us, and I was thus able to dance at his wedding with complete joy and full of love. This is what being vulnerable gave me, and it is the second bracha, the second blessing I want to give to you. Be vulnerable. It will only make you stronger. And so many of you already know how. You wear buttons and stickers on your computers that proudly proclaim your neurodiversity. You told us about your mental health struggles in story slams, and you so movingly told us about how you've been dealing with physical ailments. At school-wide student voice assemblies, you spoke movingly and intimately about your personal lives, your family lives, your religious lives. You've regularly made yourselves vulnerable so the rest of us might learn, might grow, and be proud of you and of ourselves. And so many of you have spoken to me privately about the things you've struggled with. And rather than feeling weak or endangered, I hope that in every instance you felt seen, you felt heard, and empowered as a result. I can certainly tell you that in every one of those instances, your willingness to be vulnerable helped inspire me and gave me strength. We also made ourselves vulnerable in the courtyards of the Fuchsberg Center and on the rooftops of the old city of Jerusalem. During Kabbalat Shabbat, a Tish, Sudat Shlishit, we sang together, we danced together, and we simply had faith that we would be spiritually and emotionally held by one another. And we were. These are experiences we will cherish forever, and they were only made possible because we allowed ourselves to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is also about forgiveness. Some of the most moving and inspiring conversations we had together while we were in Israel were around reconciliation. What does it look like to sit with someone you wronged and ask that person to forgive you? To genuinely reflect on what you may have done wrong and share that reflection with the other person. We live these moments of vulnerability throughout our time in Israel, and I believe that each of us is stronger for having laid down our armor together. Finally, it was your willingness to be vulnerable that allowed you to try on new ideas, ideas that often contradicted beliefs that you espoused. On the streets of Israel, you approached people you ordinarily would not have had ever spoken to and asked them what they thought about God or Torah, strangers on the street. And in the many conversations I had with you after, your eyes glowed as you thought through these new ideas and how they mapped onto your previous beliefs. It was your willingness to be vulnerable in that moment that allowed you to lean into cognitive dissonance. You took a stance of inquiry about your assumptions, you listened to others, and you started thinking about a new path forward for yourself. I feel so blessed to have been a part of those moments with so many of you. I'm probably way over my allotted time by now. What's new? So, I will only quickly share with you two other reasons I've told you these two stories from my life. Yes, I'm going to keep going for as long as I darn well please. Thank you. Lesson number one is that the most intense stories from the first couple decades of your life will be the ones that define you. You'll carry them with you for the rest of your life. So be vulnerable and lean into those experiences. Ask what you can learn from them. The two stories I shared with you today were not fun for me when they happened, believe me. But I now look upon them as two of the most important things that ever happened to me. And here's lesson number two. Appreciate your parents. The wisdom that I carry with me every day, wisdom that empowers me, that informs the decisions that I make in some of the hardest moments, that wisdom came from my parents. They're not only really smart, but they know me, and they knew at the time and now what I need. In one case, the wisdom came in the form of words. Only the weak need to hide. In other cases, the wisdom came as lived action. We embrace the ineffability of our religious lives, and we never stop thinking critically. And of course, we lean into that cognitive dissonance. So to my parents, who are here today, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want each of you sitting here to think of one thing that you have to thank your parents for, and then, in just a few minutes, I want you to thank them. So, let's review. 1, lean into your cognitive dissonance in your life. You'll become so much more whole for having done so. 2, be vulnerable and you'll be strong. 3, embrace the most challenging moments of the first decades of your life. They will define you, and it is up to you to ensure that they define you for the better. And finally, say thank you to your parents. I'm not sure you need much more as you go off to the next chapter of your life. I will miss you all so very much. Please keep in touch, and of course, please come back and visit soon.
Thank you, Mr. Cadden. We are excited to welcome back the entire Shenanigans for a special performance dedicated to the class of 2022.
Shenanigans. Wow. Okay. Here we are. It is now my honor and privilege as the Dean of Students to call you, class of 22, in alphabetical order, to approach the stage to receive your diplomas. So, let's do this. Okay. You ready? We're going to get lined up. Let's begin. Ty Basin. Daniel Becker. Eli Bennett. Carolyn Bernstein. Leo Blotner. Tali Bornstein. Maris Braille. Jennifer Bolanov. William Cahan. Lily Cantor. Isabella Cooper. Jonah Delman. Asaf Devere. Itai Devere. Ron Edry. We're waiting. Robert Feldman. Neely Fishbeeler. Jonah Folkman. Ella Frank. Pictures. Gabriel Friedman Nadich. Yakira Yak Galler. Mira Gans. Ariana Geffen. Talia Gershon. Jeremy Gold. Abigail Goldfeder. Jordan Goldstein. Esther Sophie Golyak. Noah Gornstein. Julia Green. Mira Gurak. Anaïs Hibert. Joseph Hirsch. Samuel Hirsch. Jacob Hyman. Noah Jarbo. Layla Cams. Yardana Katz. Jared Kesselman. Hannah Kimball. Danny Kingsley. Akiva Kohani. Yonatan Constantine. Leah Koritz. Abraham A.Z. Krebs. Zeev Lakin. Okay, Z. Nate Lefkowitz. Ari Lerner. Avia Levy. Noah Linden. Ami Get Excited Listican. Ethan Lowenberg. Abraham Lovich. Boaz Lovich. Nora Mabuchi. Sonia Marks. Madeline Marks. Lev Menzen. Henry Nadell. George Nathaniel. Zachary Needle. Laurel Obermuller. Lev Olsberg. Sophie Peckler. Benjamin Pierce. Caroline Piavoso. Jacob Porath. Ariel Rabinovitz. Sydney Raby. Eitan Rapolino. Joey Raymond. Maya Robinson. Zev Rosen. Joshua Rosenblum. Caroline Rosenzweig. Matthew Ross. Adam Rubin. Kaylee Sarrett. Elon Schwartz. Daniel Symes. Zara Skolnick. Elon Sperber. Jonah Tillman. Ariella Zuckerman. And Dahlia Zwicker. At this time, I'm going to invite our graduates to stand, turn, and face your family, your friends, and all the guests here tonight. It is our tradition that we bless our graduates with the priestly blessings, which you can find on the back cover of your program. So please join me as we bless this wonderful, amazing class of 2022. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasam lecha shalom. Graduates, could you please turn and face me now? In a moment, you will recess out of the gym, and at this time, I'd like to invite faculty and staff to please take your positions, you know where, along the hallway. We ask that family and friends remain in their seats until the graduates have all passed through. Afterwards, we invite you to the dining hall for refreshments provided by our amazing, delicious Gann servery. Students, I get so emotional. At this time, I invite you to move your tassel from the right to left, and is with deep pride and appreciation that I present to you Gann Academy class of 2022. Y'all know what to do.
ציפורים נודדות, ילדים בחופשה, ישחקו תופסת.
You may now recess as we have rehearsed.
השדות, עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. ענבים אדומים יבשילו עד הערב ויוגשו צוננים לשולחן, ורוחות רדומים ייסעו עליהם הדרך, עיתונים ישנים בענן. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. 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 בשנה הבאה נפרוס כפות ידיים מול האור הניגר הלבן. הנפה לבנה תפרוס באור כנפיים והשמש תזרח בתוכן. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. 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 בשנה הבאה. בשנה הבאה.